This is the Sony's Kit Lens, the 16 to 50mm. Most likely it came with your Sony a6000 camera or any other a6000 series ZV-1 for that type. But the real question is this lens any good for video shooting? I did review this lens for photos. My verdict you can see in this video, but I thought, why don't we just set it up on Sony a6400 and let me tell you about this setup first, and then we go out and shoot and see how it performs, and then you can judge for yourself. So let's go. So first of all, don't be afraid of this mad setup. It's actually extremely simple. I have the Sony a6400, I have the kit lens on top, but I had to add an ND filter, and actually added the absolute cheapest and shittiest ND filter that I have. Is from a company called Vodka or something like that. Performs horribly because I assume that if you have a really cheap lens and you haven't invested in a proper lens, then you most likely are not gonna spend $100 or $200 on proper filters, but gonna use whatever is there in the market for like $30 or something like that, because you do need an ND filter to control the light. It's just the way it is. So I also had to purchase these step-up rings because it has like a super weird filter size thread, 40.5, so I added one to 49mm in the other one, and then finally I have the filter on top. What I have on the top here is just microphone to record a little bit of ambient noise. I usually use Daddy mic, but I use this one from Movo to have like a little lighter setup, and then I have a monitor just on the top with the handle and the cage, just because of comfort for me to shoot in the sunlight, but video quality is not going to be affected. And of course I'm using the original Sony battery and Angelbird SD card. One thing I forgot to tell you is the settings. I'm going to be shooting in 4K most of the time, but sometimes I'll be switching to Full HD in order to capture some slow motion video. And regarding the picture profile, I'm going to be using the picture profile 1 and shooting in HLG3 because I think it works pretty well with the 8-bit cameras like the Sony a6400. So yeah, should be good to go now. First off, I had really low expectations for this lens, but in a way it actually surprised me with its performance, and not everything was as bad as I expected. So starting with the good things of this lens, the sharpness is actually pretty good. First of all, it is a zoom lens and they tend to be softer than primes, and although it is not as sharp as prime lens, it still generates pretty decent image. When zoomed into the maximum of 50mm and when placing the subject close to the lens, the depth of field is surprisingly good given the maximum aperture of 5.6 at 50mm, and the bokeh in the background also looks pleasant. Speaking of close objects, this lens lets you go quite close. The minimum focus distance is only 9.8 inches or 25 centimeters. As you can see in this shot, there is no vignette in the corners of the image, and I did not see any distortion even at widest of 16mm. It was really hard to get fringing and chromatic aberration, but suit for yourself here. Is this chromatic aberration or is it just the strong sunlight behind the doggo? And lastly, what surprised me the most is how fast, quiet and reliable autofocus this lens has. It absolutely threw me off, but this can be explained due to how the lens is built, particularly it has an internal focus design. Alright, and now to the bad things. Even though this lens has OSS or optical steady stabilization, it just works very weird. First of all, when I move the camera handheld, the image is sort of wobbly. It feels like the camera is drunk and has a crazy rolling shutter. Even at 16mm, it was impossible to get a decent footage while walking. So the whole OSS thing is really weird on this lens. I felt comfortable shooting only static shots or very slowly panning the camera. Low light performance is another big disadvantage. f5.6 when zoomed in a bit definitely does not let a lot of light in, so I would not use it indoors or in low light situations. Definitely you need a prime, and here's a video on which one I recommend. Next up, build quality. Even though it has cool features like OSS or internal focusing and super compact size when it's turned off, the overall build quality is quite poor. Obviously a plastic lens, nevertheless the price speaks for itself. Not sure if it's a con, but it has a very weird filter size, 40.5mm.
I don't think you will find ND filter at that size, so you will have to get a step-up ring or two even. And once you put them on, it is very hard to remove them since the filter thread is sort of in the middle of the lens. I don't know, just weird. And lastly, lens flare. At 16mm it was manageable, I would say, given the price range, but at 50mm, well, suit for yourself. Oh, and another thing, due to its design, this lens does not get a lens hood, so you definitely get more sun in the lens. So how can this lens be used? Well, in all sorts of ways, I think, as it is very versatile focal length. You can definitely film people, animals, portraits, especially when zoomed in. Close-ups is also something you can do due to rather close focusing distance. Landscapes is another obvious one, especially at the wider end. However, I would recommend using a tripod for all of those shots, otherwise the footage will be wobbly. And lastly, it would be nice to shoot vlogs with it, right? At 16mm it's far out enough for that. However, I'm not sure if you would be able to walk around and shoot because of that OSS weirdness. Let me know if I'm the only one getting such wobbliness with this lens.
Let me know your thoughts, guys. Kit lens, video shooting, I don't know. You tell me down in the comments what do you think about it. Are you gonna try to go through the hassle of adding all the step-up rings and filters to shoot with it, or you just gonna upgrade to something more proper? Really curious to know that. Leave a comment down below, show some love, and I'll see you all in the next video. Of course, don't forget to keep on creating. Bye guys, see you soon.